All right, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, as we are legally required to continue to say until they are no longer Super Bowl champions. But it looks like that maybe another year before they go away from that. This Chiefs team is absolutely stacked. And Brett Veach and company in the front office, we love what they've done this entire offseason, but they recently made a huge under the radar move that I think will have massive implications for this Chiefs team.
Yeah, Nick, I think this Chiefs team is looking really, really good. I think there's a lot to look forward to, especially whenever you have Patrick Mahomes. Everything looks brighter. But I think there's a move the Chiefs have made that kind of under the radar, maybe highlight some other things, some other plans they have for this team. I think Chiefs fans are going to love. But Chiefs fans, we're talking about this team, talking about coming into the season. We're like, what, 8 days away? You're the starter. You're going to be the Thursday night game to start off the season, the big show against the Detroit Lions. So before that game, let us know in the comment section below, what's the record going to be this year? Is it undefeated going to the Super Bowl again? Maybe they lose one, keep themselves a little bit humble. Let us know in the comments below what your record will be this season. But Nick, let's get on into it. What's going on with the Chiefs?
All right, so first and foremost, let's go ahead and throw up the report and hang with me, Chiefs fans, because I think when you first see the report, you're going to be like, what is this? Trust me, there's more to this. Go ahead and throw up the report. This is from NBC Sports. After claiming defensive back Darius Rush off waivers, the Chiefs have moved on from a defensive lineman as a corresponding move. Obviously, you add a player to the final 53, you have to move one off of it. The Kansas City released defensive tackle Matt Dickerson, according to the transaction wire. Dickerson had signed with the Chiefs in May. All right, look, I know a lot of Chiefs fans are like, okay, Dickerson, why do we care? What does it matter? Well, here's the interesting thing now. Obviously, the headline around Kansas City right now is, when is Chris Jones going to show up? And here's what's very interesting. After moving off Dickerson, right, they signed a defensive back. They released a defensive tackle. After releasing the defensive tackle, they now have 5 defensive tackles on their depth chart, on their roster, according to ESPN. What's very interesting about that is I look at the top 2 contenders in the AFC, looking at the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. How many and they play a very similar kind of structure, that base 4-3 that the Kansas City Chiefs play. How many defensive tackles do they have on their roster? 5 each. And of course, the Kansas City Chiefs roster right now does include Chris Jones. To me, that is a huge indicator that Veach believes that Chris Jones will be here very soon for the Kansas City Chiefs, that the hold in, whatever they're calling it, will be over very soon. There are reports that communication is ramping up between Chris Jones and the Chiefs camp. Brett Veach is obviously a very smart guy. If he believed that the Jones holdout would be a long-term issue, I do not think he would have released a defensive tackle, bringing on a DB. He probably would have released another DB or some other position where he had more concerned depth. I think he only makes this move because he believes Chris Jones is going to return to this team very soon. That's what I think, reading between the lines here, Mize. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. What do you think of this move and just everything with Kansas City right now?
Yeah, Nick, I think we've seen around the league holdouts, hold ins, whatever you want to call them, however they're being structured. They've been ending a lot lately. I think everybody's kind of giving in and being like, all right, well, we'll go into the season. I'll play my contract out and we'll go from there. And things happen. I think goodwill on both sides always is the best answer, because if one side has a little bit more ill will than the other, usually doesn't work out for them. We always remember the famous Le'Veon Bell saga. That holdout didn't actually pan out too well. Then we think this year, Saquon Barkley, they come to terms. Josh Jacobs comes to terms. Everybody's coming to terms lately, whether they want to hold out or not. And I think this is a good sign. I think this will be similar to the Chiefs situation here with Jones, because at the end of the day, who doesn't want to go compete for another Super Bowl? I mean, this is a top tier team. You're not going to get this many opportunities. A guy like Jones, he's great. He's gotten a lot of money over his career. He wants to cement his legacy. And I think by playing for the Chiefs this season, that is one of the surefire ways to do it. Give yourself another chance at a big time Super Bowl win. So I think this is going to work out. And like you said, I think this is a good sign for the Chiefs, even though it might not be immediately stated that this is going to be the case. Might take a couple of days before things to pan out. But I think it is going in that direction, whether they get an extension or whether, Jones ends the holdout and comes back to practice.
And I think one of the things to look at, I think what really jumped out at me when you talk about the news of Veach opening up communications with Jones's camp and this move, again, moving off a defensive lineman, losing some depth at defensive line with the Jones issue outstanding. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs' first 4 opponents. You got the Detroit Lions, obviously. They run the ball very well, especially between the tackles. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars. great offensive football team led by Trevor Lawrence, 2 really good running backs. You have the Chicago Bears. Obviously, the Bears aren't a super talented team, but you know where they're really good at? Inside with Justin Fields, great cadre of running backs there in Chicago. And then they have the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers, really talented roster, looked to be a whole lot better than they were last year. This first 4 games out of the gate for Kansas City is going to be really tough, especially for the Chiefs defense. If Veach had some concerns, some serious concerns that this would not work out and Chris Jones would not return to the roster, I guarantee you he doesn't remove a defensive line piece in this move. There is something coming right around the pike when it comes to Chris Jones. I honestly think he ends the holdout. I don't think they'll do a roster extension or some new contract right now. I think they'll push it out to the offseason when he becomes a free agent, maybe at the end of the season, something like that. And keep in mind, the Miami Dolphins with Christian Wilkins, their star defensive tackle, they also recently came out and said, hey, listen, we're not doing a deal right now either. So right now, the defensive tackle market is kind of frozen. You better believe Veach knows that. You better believe Chris Jones knows that. I think he's going to return to Kansas City very soon.